Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about 3 RWA or real-world asset tokenization platforms that you must watch going into the later months of this year, because I do think that they are going to be absolute large players. With that being said, I hope that you are all having a beautiful day or a beautiful night wherever you guys are out there in the world. I want to say real quick before we really get into things, understand the risk involved in investing into anything within crypto. None of this is financial advice. And I want you guys to also understand that as we do get into the later months of this year, it is always best to practice DCAing out and taking profits. Make sure that you are not left bag holding for the future, and make sure that you are aware of this. Now, with that in mind, the tokenization space has been something that I've been focusing on for a while on this channel, because we saw the growth happening initially back in 2022, or the end of, I should say. We go back in time to RWA TVL rankings on DeFi Llama, we could start to see a big growth rate leading into 2023. And we almost hit $1 billion in the beginning of 2023. And then we kind of just ranged on a little bit until we did cross that threshold. Now, if we actually look here, right, we could see a big upswing by May. And this is when things started to really heat up, because by the time that we got into October, we were over $6 billion in terms of TVL. Now we are starting to see an upswing yet again after having a correction across the board. Now, with that in mind, what projects are we watching for to catch on this next big wave in terms of ROI? Well, let's talk about it, because we're not going to be addressing the largest players here. We're going to be talking about some of the projects that are kind of on the back end that a lot of people are not focused on. Now, I will say I'm going to be mentioning a blue chip in this space, one that is a little bit less risky, but one that is really kind of standing out, and also one that is yet to launch a full mainnet. That way we kind of get the best of all worlds in terms of, investing into a blue chip, investing into one that's on the, uppity up in terms of developer activity, and then also one that is kind of diverse in terms of what they are offering. So let's look into a few things. Let's address RWA.xyz, where we are starting to see a large portion of investments from the big players. If we actually look at some of the recent investments, and I really wish that this was, showing us the most recent ones. A lot of these dates are actually not on here, but you can see where a large portion of investments are coming from. A lot of these big players that are in this space are getting some great investments. But also, if you go to US Treasuries, you could see some of the big names like BlackRock, Franklin Templeton, and so forth. Institutional demand for tokenization endeavors is growing tremendously, and it continues to grow tremendously. I do think that this is only going to continue and continue and continue, especially at a time where tokenization is so hot that it's only going to become a much larger endeavor from the institutional and traditional financial space. Why is that? Because of the benefits that it has to offer. Now, with that, you could find some great opportunities by just looking at RWA.xyz and even DeFi Llama. But what about Dune.com? So Dune.com is offering us a little bit more of an insight into some of the largest platforms. For an example, on here, if we go back to just the beginning of the year, this is January 15th, right? Here's where we start to see a large growth rate of RWA transactions, weekly transactions. Ondo had over 20,000 plus transactions. Now, I don't think I need to mention how big Ondo has become. It's a big player, and it's been doing tremendously well. But if we look at where we are at right now, and we just go back to 318, for an example, now things are looking a little bit more different. Where Ondo has 7,000 transactions, it's still on the upswing. But look at some of the other big players on here as well, like Rio, Cpool, etc. I'm actually going to be utilizing information from here to show you guys why one of the projects that I am mentioning in this video is a must watch. But also active users, transaction numbers, and also just transactions themselves continue to grow and grow and grow. And even DEX volume has been on a massive upswing, even going back to the initial days of 2023. So as we really look at this, right? The growth is only going to continue to rise from here on out, especially with a lot more focus put on, the RWA space from the real world TradFi guys. And also, with a lot more investments pumping into this space, I don't see how the most amount of ROI is not going to be made from some of these categories like RWA or even AI, which is why I also talk about both of those categories on this channel. Now, one of the blue chips that I do think that will continue to see a large portion of capital flowing in and also continue to grow at rapid pace is Maple. So Maple Finance, I mentioned it in previous videos, and it's been doing so far pretty good, not incredible, but it has been still doing very good. Like I said initially, if we go back over here to rwa.xyz and we go to private credit, we could see that Maple is a top player. In fact, active loans wise, it is the second largest player under Centrifuge, and we can also see the total market cap of Centrifuge versus Maple. Maple's only behind Centrifuge by about $100 million in active loans, but it's behind Centrifuge in terms of market cap significantly. Also, if we look at how large Maple has been growing in terms of fees, we go back over here to Maple and we look at the revenue. Fees and revenue have been growing tremendously on the platform, which is another big thing to focus on. This means that a lot more usability on the platform is happening. And if we scroll down, we can see the revenue in the last 90 days, the last 30 days, and even the last 7 days. Now, I do think that Maple has kind of solidified its name in the space as a blue chip for RWA and even loans and lending, but it continues to kind of get a little bit more overlooked. If we actually look at Maple right now, it is sitting at about $24. By the time that this video does go live, the price action, things like that will change a little bit because I'm recording it a little bit earlier in the day. But overall, the tokenomics for this one, 10 million max supply. Only 44% of the supply is out there, which might be a big, red sign for most people. But initially, if we go back to 2022, this was April of 2022, it hit about $64. Now, the major reason why I started to have this massive downswing during like the initial days of September, October of 2022 is because if we go back over here to rwa.xyz and we look at some of the investments down here, we can see that Maple had investments from Alameda. Now, they had a ton of investments from other players as well, but Alameda was one of the investors. So again, that's the number one reason why it started to have a major downward swing in the market due to FUD and things like that. But now we are starting to break out in a big way. Now, is it too late to get into Maple? Absolutely not. Again, market cap right now is 105.7 million, fully diluted, 240 million. This does have a tremendous opportunity for upside. And it's already on some major markets like Coinbase, for example, which is a very, very good thing as well. Now, in terms of the actual platform and in terms of their actual website, it's very clean. It's straightforward. TVL right now, 145 million. 3.52 billion borrowed, 53.93 million interest earned as well. And they continue to push the envelope in terms of pushing updates, being extremely active on socials, and also continuing to build and grow and grow. Even if we go over here to some of the insights, you could look into cash management, financials, protocol, governance, product pools, and all of that. They are very transparent, which I also love. The company is also very transparent as well. And like I said, over on socials, they are very, very active, and they continue to be very active with AMAs and updates and even the roadmap for 2024 as well. It's one of those projects that I just kind of look at and I'm like, this is a blue chip. They will continue to make a lot of noise, which is a big thing. Again, focus on Maple. It's a big project. It was a big player back in 2022 and even into 2021 because around this time it was still kind of growing. It was very early on in the market. They did have an ICO. I will also mention that back in 2021, which kind of halted it a little bit, but I don't think that it was a big problem. It just kind of added to sell pressure during this time. But initially, it still did a very good run up in 2022. It was kind of a late bloomer, but now, as you guys can see, it's starting a little bit early, which is a big thing. Now, outside of Maple, another project that I've been watching for is Dusk. Now, this one is up a lot. If we look at the last 1 month, it's up 114%. The reason why I'm mentioning Dusk and the reason why I want to talk a little bit more about this one is because this is still early in inception. Why? they don't have a mainnet, right? And they rebranded to just Dusk. It was originally Dusk Network. If we go back in time, we could see how it performed back in 2021 into 2022. A lot of these big RWA projects like Maple, Dusk, a lot of them, right? They initially had their run up after the bull run already was topped out, like after Bitcoin already topped out, which is something I do want to mention. But Dusk is about to retest those highs and go into price discovery at a time where the mainnet is close to launching. How do we know this? Well, I'll talk a little bit more about that. But this one is already on major exchanges like Binance, for an example. So retail access is already there. Now, the reason why I'm talking about Dusk is because if we go over to the GitHub, we could see the growth rate here. We could see how much they're building. We could see what they are doing. For example, this was updated 47 minutes ago. This is their smart contract platform. If we go over to their smart contract platform, there's over 3,670 commits. The last update was 48 minutes ago. We could see how much growth is happening here and how active they have been in terms of development. All of these were active in just the last month alone. Again, focus on GitHub activity. It is a big sign that building is still happening. Now, like I said, the reason why I'm focusing on the GitHub is because, again, their mainnet has not launched yet. They're still on the testnet. If we go over to the testnet, look at how much is staked right now. Guys, 56.4 million Dusk is staked on the testnet. Now, if we go over to Dusk, we can see get to know Dusk. Dusk is a layer 1 with the 3 key pillars of privacy, compliance, and RWAs. The mainnet is scheduled for March and April of this year. It did not get launched yet, but it is nearly here. The end of March is here, so we are looking at April possibly for the major launch of the mainnet. I do think that this is going to really put Dusk on the map, and they have been building for a while. This is not a brand new project. Guys, they've been around since 2019, early 2019. Which is why we really kind of focus on these projects that have been building, that have been active. And now we are starting to see them really push the mainnet, which I think is going to be a big one to really watch for. The RWA space is red hot. And we can see the activity, guys, 6.7 million views. Look at the engagement rate on this. So they are extremely active. They continue to push. They continue to build. They continue to make noise. Focus on Dusk. I do think that this could be an early one. It's about $275 million in market cap, $327.3 million in fully diluted market cap. It will most likely have a slight pullback. If we do get one, that's when you really want to watch for getting a position in Dusk. Again, not financial advice, but I do think that this is going to be a big winner once it does go into price discovery. Now, next up on the list, and one that's kind of hidden, is ClimaDAO. This one is a $19.9 million market cap, fully diluted $22 million. As you guys can see, this chart looks absolutely dead, right? But I want you guys to understand that this had a rough launch. It launched near the end of the bull run and absolutely crashed tremendously. The tokenomics for this, 8.8 million, almost 8 million circulating. It does have an inflationary rate to it, but it's not a very significant one. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But overall, this one, it looks dead, right? Everyone thinks it's dead. No one's really focusing on it. But if we go back over to Dune, this is Clima. Guys, look at Clima climbing the ranks. This is the beginning of 2024. Clima had 427 transactions. Again, they continue to grow and grow and grow. Almost 1,000 transactions here, 400, 500, 450, 400, or this is now 600. And then the next week it had 700, almost 800, then 890, and currently speaking about 712. Again, I'm looking at this and I'm focusing on Clima. Even over here, we could see the percentage accounted for in terms of RWA transactions is about 5.3%. Even in terms of the active users, again, Clima really not making the list right now in terms of a massive one, but they still accounted for 126 users versus, Proppy, for example, which is a big player right now at 106. Back here, again, 195. Back here, 218. And I know that it's like not a massive amount of users, but it is still something to mention. Even over here, we could see transaction numbers, 143. Do I need to mention, again, Maple's on this list, Ondo's on this list. Look at Clima's numbers versus Maple and Ondo. Again, this is why I'm saying a lot of people are overlooking Clima at a time where it seems as though this is becoming a big player to focus on. If we go over to their website, we could see their breakdown, right? They're focused on climate finance, specifically tokenizing carbon credits. And I know that this is not a very, fun application or use case, but it is still something that is being heavily focused on by the real world asset space. We also have govern the market for the planet, join over 100,000 participants in our ecosystem, use the climate token to steward climate DAO's resources and grow the digital carbon market. We could also see some of the players that are involved here. We could see the governing and engage, buy, sell, and retire, build with Clima, explore the DCM, and learn more. And they're very transparent as well. We could see Polygon chose Clima DAO to offset their blockchain network. 11,000 tons last carbon retired, 104,000 tons total carbon retired. And again, they are doing some great things in the real world space. And it's something that a lot of people are just overlooking at a time where you really should be looking into these applications. You could also see the ecosystem map as well. We go over to the ecosystem map. Here is the full on ecosystem. We have the marketplaces, on-chain retirement, project financing, carbon NFTs, crypto native credits, things like that. It's not just carbon credits, but there's a lot of things happening here. And it's something that I've been focused on even when it comes to Energy Web Token, for example. It's a use case that is not very popular right now, but it is one that, in my opinion, is going to grow more and more in terms of popularity, considering the fact that in the real world, we are starting to see a big focus on carbon credits. Northern Trust, back in September, was fully focused on tokenized carbon credits. We also have over here from Neutral, they're launching a regulated platform for tokenized renewable energy and carbon credits. And then also the Interwork Alliance publishes Carbon Emission Token Protocol back in November. When we go over to Clima DAO's X account, we can see how active they are. They have been pushing and pushing and pushing. And by the way, here we can actually see the Q1 2024 saw a surge of carbon retirements with 211,000 plus carbon tons retired via the Clima infrastructure. This is a 42% increase over Q2 of 2022. So they are really kind of ramping up overall growth, which is a big deal. Now, like I said, price action looks dead, but they had a rough launch. Even when we go over here to the TVL, it might look like it's dead, but if we zoom in over here, this is starting to grow. And it might not be massive, right? Like we're at 12.8 million in terms of TVL, but let's go back to the market cap. It is at 19.9 million, fully diluted 22 million. Now, like I said, inflation rate. What is the inflation rate? So if we go back to their update from May 27th, we could actually see that this proposal, which did get passed, significantly dropped the inflationary rate of the token. This was actually to reduce the AKR to about 7%. We actually have down here, when the digital carbon supply is growing supply. This is the Clima supply. We have the expected growth, the lower growth as well. So we have number one, in periods at low growth in digital carbon supply, Clima supply growth outpaces carbon supply growth. There's too much Clima being issued. 2, AKR is reduced to ensure that Clima supply growth slows, bringing it in line with the rate of digital carbon supply growth. Now, considering this, if we go over here to the Clima staking application, we can see that the AKR is right now 0.2%. So staking right now and the release of climate tokens is actually pretty low substantially versus anything else in this space. So the inflation rate of Clima is very, very low, which is why I really kind of look at the tokenomics for this one. And I look at the diverse use case of it as being pretty substantial and lucrative in terms of ROI. Now, does that mean that Clima is going to go back to $3,000 or anything like that? No, I don't believe so, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some pretty high figures in terms of, $50 to possibly even $100, which would be very, very great in terms of ROIs. Now, again, this is a higher risk project, considering the fact that if we look at the price action, we look at the use case for it, it's not extremely popular, but it is still an RWA project that could catch the wave again, considering if there's a lot of hype, if there's a lot of focus put on it. But like I said, carbon credits, they are growing in demand, and I do think that Klima definitely is at the forefront of this. I would personally focus on this one closely, add it to your watch list, possibly even take a position. Again, not financial advice. Definitely focus on the growth, focus on what is happening in terms of TVL. They do have some nice growth in terms of development activity as well, which you guys can see down here. Weekly commits about 12, monthly commits about 61. So they are still pushing some updates, which is a big thing. Staked overall supply, 57.65% of the market cap, which is also something pretty big. Overall, I'm definitely focused on this one. I think that this could be a big winner. Full transparency, I don't have a position in all of these projects. Just to give you guys a full insight into what I've been accumulating. I haven't been really accumulating a lot of these. I have mainly a lot of positions in like True, for an example, because of the opportunity at hand. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe to notifications on because I'm more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. With that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.